Then, generally, as the winds continue to ease and we have clearer skies, it's going to turn cold on Thursday night with a fairly widespread frost. But that should lead into a sparkling day of sunshine for many on Friday before we see spells of wet and increasingly windy weather sweep across the country this weekend.
My name's Tom Harwood, and every weekday we bring you The Briefing live from 9:30 a.m. The stories, analysis and live debate that you need to hear.
Quite right, Tom, of course.
Was this something that had been considered at all?
Difficult to answer.
Gas-guzzling helicopters circling. Noise is being made here.
Joe Biden walking out.
Thank you very much for joining us.
Don't miss it. The Briefing with me, Tom Harwood, Monday to Friday, 9:30 a.m. on GB News.
GB News is the UK's home of discussion and debate
From all perspectives.
To stay up to date on the latest stories,
make sure that you subscribe to the GB News channel
right here on YouTube.
You can watch us live 24/7 across the whole world.
You can also check out exclusive content and catch up on previous episodes of your favourite shows.
Every day, we ask the questions
That you'd ask, so why not add your voice to the conversation in the comments section?
Don't forget to subscribe. We are GB News, Britain's news channel.
Every night at 11 on GB News, we bring you the next day's stories the day before.
Basically like time travel.
If it's a big story, we'll cover it, guaranteed. But we'll also have some fun along the way.
Big opinions, big laughs. Sometimes big hair.
This is
Headliners, the paper review show that won't send you to sleep like the others will.
11 p.m, 7 nights a week. Join us.
Hello there, I'm Eamon Holmes.
And I'm Isabel Webster.
And we hope you can join us for
Breakfast with Eamon.
And Isabel.
You make me laugh out loud, belly laugh.
Is that important first thing in the morning?
Yeah, absolutely.
And there's me trying to be deadly serious. News is a serious business.
Yeah, I have to rein you in sometimes.
Well, it doesn't stop us laughing at it. It doesn't stop us having an opinion on what's going on.
Yeah.
And it certainly will not stop us reflecting what you think.
Weekdays from 6 to 9:30 on GB News.
I'm Dan Wootton. Join me Monday to Thursday from 9 to 11 for the feistiest and most fun news debate on TV, where free speech reigns. I'll bring you a sharp take on the day's biggest stories, bombshell newsmaker interviews, and A-list guests. And I guarantee you, no spin, no bias, no censorship, and no reason to go to bed. That's Dan Wootton tonight, Monday to Thursdays from 9 on GB News.
And welcome once again to On the Money. It's your daily weekday dose of economics, business and consumer news. I'm Liam Halligan, and for the next hour, as battles over the cost of living crisis heat up in Parliament, we're assessing the prospect of our youngsters and the not so young, examining the UK's much diminished apprenticeship system, plus our latest Startup Britain guest, and a survey of women, which says women don't like managing money. All that and more on The Money after the GB News headlines with Rosie Wright.
Good afternoon. It's just gone 1 o'clock. I'm Rosie Wright, here to keep you up to date on GB News. The Prime Minister says he expects to end all of the last domestic coronavirus restrictions, including the legal duty for cases to self-isolate, a month early. During Prime Minister's questions, Boris Johnson told MPs he'll present the government's Living with COVID plan after the half-term recess. That's on February the 21st.
Provided the current encouraging trends in the data continue, it is my expectation that we will be able to end the last domestic restrictions, including the legal requirement to self-isolate if you test positive, a full month early.
Meanwhile, the Labour leader, Sir Keir Starmer, has criticised the government's energy bills plan by branding it a dodgy loan, not a proper plan.
His plan is to hand billions of pounds of taxpayers' cash to energy companies and then force families to pay it off in instalments for years to come. If it sounds like he's forcing people to take out a loan, and it looks like he's forcing people to take out a loan, isn't it just forcing people to take out a loan?
Labour MP Fabian Hamilton challenged the Prime Minister on a new photograph that's emerged and been published by the Daily Mirror newspaper, reportedly showing Boris Johnson at a Christmas quiz near what appears to be a bottle of sparkling wine.
A photo has emerged of the Prime Minister in Downing Street on the 15th of December 2020, surrounded by alcohol, food and people wearing tinsel. It looks a lot like one of the Christmas parties he told us never happened. So for the sake of my constituent and the sacrifices she made, will the Prime Minister be referring this party to the police, as it's not one of the ones already being investigated?
In what he has just said, I'm afraid he is completely in error.
The Health Secretary, Sajid Javid, has accepted the apology of the junior Health Minister, Gillian Keegan, after she admitted continuing an in-person meeting despite finding out that she'd tested positive for coronavirus in a lateral flow test. While posting on Twitter, Ms Keegan said she was listening to 3 fathers who'd lost their daughters to suicide when she found out her positive result. She says that with their consent, she stayed for a short period to hear their stories, but realises that was an error of judgment. Sajid Javid says he continues to support her in her role. The Health Secretary has pledged to recruit 15,000 new health workers by the end of March. Sajid Javid has warned the NHS waiting list in England will not start to fall for another 2 years. About 6 million people are currently waiting for routine treatments. The government has outlined some of its plans to improve the links between the NHS and social care in its integration white paper. Under the new plans, patients will have a digital care record where they can book appointments and order prescriptions. Care home residents could also get access to better specialist support, meaning they could avoid having to go to hospital if they're unwell. Businesses have faced higher costs, more paperwork and border delays because of the UK's exit from the EU. That's according to analysis from the public spending watchdog. The cross-party group of MPs is urging the government to do more to ease administration and costs suffered by firms. The Public Accounts Committee also warned there may be lengthier border delays and lorry queues once passenger numbers return to normal, as is expected later this year, given the new border requirements. The Foreign Secretary is flying to Moscow today to meet her Russian counterpart, Sergei Lavrov, to discuss the situation in Ukraine. Liz Truss plans to urge Russia to pursue a diplomatic solution and make clear that another Russian invasion would bring massive consequences. Russian ambassador to London said the country was only interested in the talks if Britain had constructive proposals, and said the talks would be pointless if sanctions were threatened. Adele has made a triumphant return to the Brit Awards by picking up 3 of the biggest prizes of the night. Adele, easy on me!
Congratulations.
The pop star won Song of the Year, Album of the Year and the new category that's gone gender neutral, Artist of the Year for the first time. Other winners included Sam Fender, who won Best Rock and Alternative Artist, while Songwriter of the Year went to Ed Sheeran. You're up to date now here on GB News. I'll bring you more as it happens. Now on the money and Liam.
It's 1:05 and coming up on the money today on GB News TV and DAB plus digital radio. As the cost of living crisis heats up, we're thinking about the prospects of the UK's youngsters. It's apprenticeship week, says the government, as ministers try to encourage and promote the benefits of vocational training. But have apprenticeships got an image problem? Now, women are less confident than men when it comes to managing money. Not my conclusion, but that's the result of a survey of 8,000 women. We'll discuss the whys and wherefores of money management among both women and men. Plus, after the numbers with caring responsibilities jumped to 13.6 million in lockdown, our latest Startup Britain guest is James Townsend, who founded Mobilise, a tech company which provides an online platform of advice and support for unpaid carers, just like Glenn.
People seldom look at the carer as being the person who's feeling the pain. It's usually the patient, and you're just an ancillary. So we're looking at ourselves as people who need help. We help each other. We have a laugh with each other, and we always try to end our meetings on a high.
That's Startup Britain later in the show, and as ever, I want your opinions, questions, ideas. What do you think of apprenticeship schemes. What's your experience or that of your kids? Email gbviews@gbnews.uk or tweet @gbnews. I'll read out some of your messages later in the show, so stay with us. This is GB News. I'm Liam Halligan. You're on the money. Now, a record number of UK students secured a place at university this year, with almost 450,000 domestic students starting degree courses. But amidst frustration at ongoing online learning, which many suspect is a way to cut costs, more and more young people now question the broader idea of going to university. But Britain's lagged for years when it comes to vocational education. The German apprenticeship system, in contrast, develops and celebrates practical know-how seen as by no means inferior to academic qualifications. And of course, with more than half of young people now attending university, there's concern standards at university are slipping. The Office for Students, the government regulator, warned last autumn it could fine universities for running poor quality courses, so-called Mickey Mouse degrees. Now, as it happens, this is National Apprenticeship Week, with the government promoting the importance of vocational education, and not only for school leavers. On cue, the rail company Northern, the UK's second largest train operator, is urging so-called Generation X, those born between 1965 and 1980, that's me, to consider applying to its industry-leading apprenticeship scheme. Northern's already the largest provider of such opportunities across the rail industry, with almost 600 apprentices employed in roles including drivers, engineers and business administrators. Now, almost everyone would agree the UK does have a skills shortage in many key areas, not least construction, manufacturing and engineering more generally. Successive governments have talked a lot about so-called T-levels, vocational qualifications for school leavers, already launched in sectors like education and childcare, but not yet covering engineering and manufacturing. That won't happen until September 2022. And on top of that, among some young people, apprenticeships do have an image problem, often seen as a cheap labour scheme with not enough meaningful training or transferable skills. But without more skills, UK productivity will decline, the efficiency of the economy, stymieing our growth and investment, lowering living standards for all. So that's our On the Money question today. How do we make apprenticeships more attractive? As ever on The Money, grown-up conversations with people who really know their stuff. We have Joseph Valente, 2015's winner of The Apprentice and CEO of the Trade Mastermind Coaching Academy, which works with business owners to support those in the construction industry. Joseph, good to have you with us. Also, Tricia Williams, Chief Operating Officer at Northern, that train operator I mentioned, the largest provider of apprenticeships across the rail industry. Also joining us is Iona Bain, financial journalist and founder of the Young Money blog, and John Longworth, chairman of the Independent Business Network and former head of the British Chamber of Commerce. John, I want to start with you as the other more experienced member of the panel, along with myself, the other member of Generation X, just. When you were running the British Chamber of Commerce, how often did this apprenticeship issue come up among your members, some of the UK's leading small and medium-sized businesses?
It was a very hot topic amongst businesses. Businesses want to provide apprenticeships. Of course, it is up to businesses to provide good apprenticeships. We can't, too many businesses actually feed off other businesses that provide them, but don't do it themselves. But nonetheless, those that do were very much for apprentices. I remember visiting British Aerospace, a big manufacturing plant in Lancashire, and all of the directors that accompanied me to that visit had all been apprentices. So they'd actually gone up from an apprenticeship to running the company. And in manufacturing, it's very, very important. Manufacturing is our biggest opportunity for boosting productivity. In terms of productivity bang for buck, we need to invest in manufacturing again.
Yeah.
People think it's disappeared. 10% of the economy is manufacturing.
We're still a world-class manufacturer.
That is more than banking and insurance.
High wage, secure, long-term jobs with bright prospects.
And if you're a young person looking, should shall I take a loan to go to university, or shall I earn some money while being an apprentice? There's a very good argument for saying, I'll be an apprentice, thank you very much.
Tricia Williams, let's come to you. You are Chief Operating Officer at Northern, the huge rail company. We're most grateful to you for appearing here on The Money. Hats off to Northern for providing apprenticeships, but without being sniffy in any way, you know, people who in the past have been apprentice plumbers, cabinet makers, joiners, carpenters, engineers would say, if you're going to be a train driver, be a train driver. You don't necessarily need to be an apprentice. You know, it's a skilled job, but it's not a very, very, very specialised job like some of the other ones that I mentioned. What would you say to that?
I think what I would say to that is we're looking for people to join Northern and join the rail industry to have a career in the rail industry. So whilst they may start as a train driver or a conductor or an engineer, we want the apprenticeship schemes that they go through to equip them with skills that are transferable as they carry on their career in the rail industry.
And tell us about some of the apprenticeships that Northern has offered to youngsters and some who are not so young. You're now encouraging old people like me to get apprenticeships.
Well, I'm in that Generation X as well, Liam.
Surely not.
We do offer, absolutely, we do offer a wide range of apprenticeship schemes. So conductors, train drivers, engineers, but also in our control room functions, our planning teams, and they can range between sort of 1 to 3 year schemes supported by local colleges. And we've got an in-house team who will support the training, coaching, and as well as the off-the-job training through local colleges. There's specific on-the-job training as well. And some of the schemes that we have, you don't need any qualifications for. You will have to be able to show and demonstrate you've got certain skills, but it doesn't necessarily need you to have any GCSEs. And so we are looking for not just school leavers, we are looking for anybody who wants a change in career to join our industry, join our apprenticeship scheme and look for a career in Northern and rail.
Talking of apprentices, let's go to Joseph Valente now. Joseph, great to have you on the show again. So you won the apprentice, but now you've turned your skills to training people. You're the CEO of the Trade Mastermind Coaching Academy. Am I unfair if I say that apprenticeships still have a bit of an image problem among young people? Are they, in some cases, by no means all, make work schemes, cheap labour with no transferable skills? Is that a danger?
I mean, absolutely. I don't think they're that attractive. And, you know, with anything, you've got to sell the success story. Why should people take on an apprenticeship? Why should people become apprentices? What are we doing for those young people to inspire them to see the opportunities? And I think that's where we're really lacking. You know, whoever it is within the government that's driving the apprenticeship scheme and getting people excited about apprenticeships, or in businesses, they've got to become expert marketeers in the message that you can become a success story. You know, these young people, they want to buy into success. They need to see somebody like me that started at 15 as an apprentice, that went on to win The Apprentice, that now employs apprentices. I've done millions and millions of pounds in sales. I've hired hundreds of people. I've built multiple multi-million-pound businesses. But my apprenticeship was the key to creating the platform that started that journey. So you really need to get focused on selling the success story and why young people need to go down this career path. You're battling with social media now. You know, who wants to come for £100 a week to go and work on a construction site or crawl through lofts, or, you know, especially in the construction market, when they can go on social media and create content? So there's got to be a focus on marketing apprenticeships better to young people. And it's not about the argument, are apprenticeships good or are they not good? It's about getting young people to see what the potentials are and really selling up where they can go.
Iona, among your generation, dare I say, people younger than you, leaving university, is there an image problem? Am I being unfair?
Well, I think it's not helped by the fact that every time you see a politician discussing apprentices, they tend to be
on a construction site with a hard hat and a high-vis jacket, you know, action men. And as important as the manufacturing sector is in the UK, no one would doubt that. I think that maybe we need to be looking at all the other apprenticeship opportunities.
Like Northern is.
Indeed, and also in the tech industry. So
Yeah.
Joseph made the point that young people are very attracted to jobs in tech, and there are attractive apprenticeship opportunities in that market too. So it is about maybe broadening out that vision of what we
But surely to call something an apprenticeship, there should be like a kite mark that if it's an apprenticeship, your wages might be slightly lower, but you're guaranteed to get training and skills that are ultimately transferable and career enhancing. So you're not just sweeping up the shop floor day in, day out.
No,
though some of that isn't, of course, part of the training.
Yeah, and you've got to, you know, roll your sleeves up
Yeah.
and learn the value of hard work. But no, it's not the same as an internship. And I mean, that was a real problem when I was starting in the labour market. A lot of businesses would offer free internships and pretend that they were offering those young people valuable skills when they weren't. They were just treating them like unpaid lackeys.
This is a danger. Hugely important issue. Lots of emails on this. People particularly concerned at the time when the economy is looking a bit precarious about prospects for themselves and indeed for their kids. This is On the Money with me, Liam Halligan. We'll keep this discussion going after the break with my expert panel. It's On the Money after all. Plus, we'll cross over live to our Northwest of England reporter, Brad Harris. We can't keep him off the telly. Who's with a local business impacted by Brexit? Stay with us. You're On the Money.
Hello. Most of us will have a dry day today, but increasingly across Scotland, we're seeing showers turning more and more wintry, and we have a Met Office warning for snow in place across parts of Scotland for later today. One more mild day across the south, but here it will turn colder as this cold front moves through. It is providing quite a bit of cloud, and in places a little bit of patchy rain, but it's further north where the winds are strengthening. We've got the wintry showers coming in, snow over hills, but even down to low levels, some snow flurries possible, moving in on that fairly brisk wind. Patchy rain from that weather front across parts of southern England, South Wales, tending to ease off and push further south. The far southeast, dry and bright, but clouding over here. That's where we could see the top temperatures, 13, maybe 14 degrees. Further north there, we've already got the colder air. So single figures, feeling colder with the wind, and increasingly we'll see those snow showers coming in across western Scotland, likely to pep up overnight. Several centimetres of snow on some of the higher routes here. Snow down to low levels for a time before at low levels turning more back to rain during Thursday, but ice is an extra hazard also. Patchy rain clearing the south, still pretty mild in the south, but not as mild as recent nights. Frost likely across the north where we have clear skies, and if you get some shelter from the wind. But a blustery, showery day across Scotland to come tomorrow. Those showers still of snow over hills, and again, the likelihood for some disruption. Ice is a potential risk as well, where we've got the showers during Thursday. Mostly dry and bright further south, but not as mild. Temperatures back closer to average single figures. Certainly feeling colder with the strong winds, which will be blowing for most of the day across Scotland before easing through the evening. Then, generally, as the winds continue to ease and we have clearer skies, it's going to turn cold on Thursday night with a fairly widespread frost. But that should lead into a sparkling day of sunshine for many on Friday before we see spells of wet and increasingly windy weather sweep across the country this weekend.
GB News is the UK's home of discussion and debate
from all perspectives.
To stay up to date on the latest stories,
make sure that you subscribe to the GB News channel
right here on YouTube.
You can watch us live 24/7 across the whole world.
You can also check out exclusive content and catch up on previous episodes of your favourite shows.
Every day, we ask the questions
that you'd ask, so why not add your voice to the conversation in the comments section?
Don't forget to subscribe. We are GB News, Britain's news channel.
Every night at 11 on GB News, we bring you the next day's stories the day before.
It's basically like time travel.
If it's a big story, we'll cover it, guaranteed. But we'll also have some fun along the way.
Big opinions, big laughs. Sometimes big hair.
This is
Headliners, the paper review show that won't send you to sleep like the others will.
11 p.m, 7 nights a week. Join us.
Hello there, I'm Eamon Holmes.
And I'm Isabel Webster.
And we hope you can join us for
Breakfast with Eamon
and Isabel.
You make me laugh out loud, belly laugh.
Is that important first thing in the morning?
Yeah, absolutely.
And there's me trying to be deadly serious.
News is a serious business.
Yeah, I have to rein you in sometimes.
Well, it doesn't stop us laughing at it. It doesn't stop us having an opinion on what's going on.
Yeah.
And it certainly will not stop us reflecting what you think.
Weekdays from 6 to 9:30 on GB News.
I'm Dan Wootton. Join me Monday to Thursday from 9 to 11 for the feistiest and most fun news debate on TV, where free speech reigns. I'll bring you a sharp take on the day's biggest stories, bombshell newsmaker interviews, and A-list guests. And I guarantee you, no spin, no bias, no censorship, and no reason to go to bed. That's Dan Wootton Tonight, Monday to Thursdays from 9 on GB News.
Welcome back. It's 22 minutes past 1 and you're on the money. Now, it's National Apprenticeship Week and we're asking, how do we make apprenticeships more attractive? I'm still with my expert panel. Let's go back to you, John Longworth. You used to run the British Chamber of Commerce. You're now the chairman of the Independent Business Network of Family Businesses. Our family-owned businesses, often hugely important in the British economy. They can take a long-term view. With all your business experience, do apprenticeships have an image problem?
Yeah, of course they do. We're still living in so many ways under the long shadow of the bonkers Tony Blair, who said on this subject, we should all go to university.
Yeah.
So, he made it sexy to go to university. For what purpose? I ask myself. The thing is, other countries do it in different ways. You mentioned Germany.
Yeah.
They start to specialise according to people's aptitude at a very early age. They actually have technical schools, grammar schools and vocational schools.
And it's not seen as a failure to go down the vocational route,
not.
is it?
They're all equally valued. And actually in German companies, big manufacturing nation, of course, they have dual chief executives. They have managerial chief executives and engineering chief executives. And I know personally, as somebody who started as a scientist, often technical people are seen as people to be shoved in the back room and forgotten by British businesses. So actually business itself in the UK needs to change its attitude. And there's no question also, of course, that trades are very important. Let's not forget trades.
Try getting a plumber.
Exactly. And how expensive are they? To be a plumber or an electrician is a skilled job for which you need an apprenticeship to actually build those skills. And you can make a lot of money.
Yeah, never be without work.
Never be without work. Tricia Williams, let's go back to you at Northern, a huge rail company in the UK. Are the apprenticeships that you're offering providing the young people and some of the not so young people you're now encouraging to join your apprenticeship schemes with those long-term skills, with significant training?
Yes, they are. There is a difference now in terms of the training that we will require within the industry. So long gone are the days where you would just need a toolkit and a spanner. And now, if you think about our trains, all of our trains have now got digital capability on them. So you need to almost have that experience in software as well. So people don't just start with that. They have to be coached and mentored and trained both in the classroom and on the job to have those skills if you think about engineering. So it is important for us to portray apprenticeships, as other members of the panel have talked about, in a way that talks about setting you up for a great career and having the skills from the start and the training and the support in order to achieve the most that you can achieve in your career.
Joseph Valente, let's go back to you. You won The Apprentice, of course. You're obviously yourself in an exceptional position, a combination of talent, effort, and with all respect, luck as well. But what's your advice? Very briefly, we're running out of time, Joseph. Two young people are thinking, do I go to university or do I get an apprenticeship?
I mean, look, you can go and do an apprenticeship and get paid straight away. Getting in yourself into a lot of debt and going to university isn't always the answer. You've got to look beyond the apprenticeship and what you're earning in the short term and look at the potential in the long term and use the apprenticeship as a platform to springboard your success. And, the more that you can see the opportunity in the future, the better it's going to be.
Thank you, Joseph. And last word to you, Iona. I saw you, people listening on radio won't have seen this, and maybe even our viewers, you were out of vision, but you were literally nodding from the waist yes. when John Longworth was talking about bonkers Blair and 50% of us going to university.
Absolutely, and it's funny that Tony Blair's son, Ewan Blair, has made a career out of somewhat undermining part of his legacy and setting up this business where he's matching up young people with companies that need apprentices, saying that it's not right for all young people. And you look at the student funding system, it's a mess. Don't get me started on how students were treated during the pandemic, which was absolutely appalling. And if I was...
The rates of interest on those loans.
Which keep going up because they're tied to that higher inflation index.
Yeah. They're tied, aren't they, to the retail price index, which is above 7%, rather than the consumer price index. And yet when I go to press conferences and say to ministers, but inflation's already above 7%. They say, Liam, but the retail price index isn't a real measure anymore. Why are you looking at that? You should be looking at the consumer price index.
Love the fact they're admitting that the way that we measure inflation is a dog's breakfast.
That's right. Exactly. And John, something that you mentioned in the break, I did want to bring out. You linked apprenticeships, the importance of apprenticeships, not just to productivity, the efficiency of the economy, the ability of the UK to generate the wealth, which all public spending, arts, culture, everything depends, all comes from business. You also linked it to levelling up.
Yes, absolutely. You know, the regions absolutely require a rejuvenation of... sorry to keep going back to manufacturing, but the only way you're going to get the regions to actually have wealth rather than welfare is to have manufacturing and tech, and you need to have training in the regions to actually equip people to make the wealth from those things, whether they're working for other people or eventually even setting up their own businesses. That's what the regions need to actually level up. More than HS2 and all these vanity projects, they need that. And apprenticeships is part of the solution.
And let's just go back briefly, if we may, to Tricia Williams of Northern. I must say, I personally think it's great that a big company like Northern is offering apprenticeships, not just to youngsters, but also to older people too. To what extent will that feed into the service that commuters get? Not just from Northern, which of course has had its problems, as many rail operators have had before lockdown and during lockdown. To what extent do you think this promotion of apprenticeships by your company is going to eventually feed into a better service for those of us who use your trains?
It probably relates back to the point you mentioned earlier about, are we training somebody to be a train driver? Absolutely we are, if you come in on that apprenticeship scheme, but you will get customer service skills as well. You will get other skills, and that all helps us deliver a better service for our customers. And something that hasn't been mentioned, but I would like to mention, is that any opportunity we can get to make our industry more diverse, we take. And we know that the apprenticeship allows us to do that and represent our communities and our customers better. So we're out at the moment looking for 30 apprentices as part of Apprenticeship Week. And if everybody wants to have a look at, anybody interested wants to have a look at our website, I think it's a fantastic way of joining the industry.
Here on The Money, Tricia, we're delighted to support those efforts. Keep in touch with us. Let us know how you're getting on. Come back on the show and discuss further Northern's apprenticeship scheme. A lot of interest in it. The emails are coming in. That was Tricia Williams of Northern. We heard from John Longworth, who's the chairman of the Independent Business Network of Family Businesses. Joseph Valente, of course, the former winner of The Apprentice, and Iona Bain, author of the book Own It. She's going to stay with us for the rest of the show. After the break, we meet the man who founded Mobilise, a tech startup that supports the UK's 10 million unpaid carers. But first, it's the GB News headlines with Rosie Wright.
It's 1:30. Good afternoon. I'm Rosie Wright, here to keep you up to date on GB News. The Prime Minister says he expects to end all of the last domestic coronavirus restrictions, including the legal duty to isolate if you test positive with COVID, a month early. During Prime Minister's questions, Boris Johnson told MPs he'll present the government's Living with COVID plan after the half-term recess on the 21st of February. A new picture has emerged, reportedly showing Boris Johnson at a Christmas quiz on December the 15th of last year, when coronavirus restrictions were in place. When challenged on it in the Commons, Mr Johnson said the event had already been submitted for investigation. The Metropolitan Police chose not to investigate the quiz after reviewing evidence from the Sue Gray inquiry. The Health Secretary, Sajid Javid, has accepted the apology of the Junior Health Minister, Liam Halligan, after she admitted continuing an in-person meeting despite finding out she tested positive for coronavirus on a lateral flow test. Posting on Twitter, Ms Keegan said she was listening to 3 fathers who'd lost their daughters to suicide when she found out her positive result. She says that then, with their consent, she stayed for a short period to hear their stories, but realises that was an error of judgment. Sajid Javid says he continues to support her in her role. A cross-party group of MPs is urging the government to do more to ease the higher costs and paperwork that firms face due to Brexit. The Public Accounts Committee also warns there may be lengthier border delays and lorry queues once passenger numbers return to normal, as expected later this year. The government has outlined some of its plans to improve the links between the NHS and social care in its integration white paper. Under the new plans, patients will have a digital care record where they can easily book appointments and order prescriptions. Adele has made a triumphant return to the Brit Awards by picking up 3 of the biggest prizes on the night: Song of the Year, Album of the Year, and she also won the now gender-neutral category Artist of the Year. Other winners included Sam Fender, who won Best Rock and Alternative Artist, while Songwriter of the Year went to Ed Sheeran. You're up to date now here on GB News. Don't forget, we're not just on your TV, but online and on DAB Plus radio. Don't go anywhere. On the Money, we'll be back in a moment.
GB News is the UK's home of discussion and debate
from all perspectives.
To stay up to date on the latest stories,
make sure that you subscribe to the GB News channel
right here on YouTube.
You can watch us live 24/7 across the whole world.
You can also check out exclusive content and catch up on previous episodes of your favourite shows.
Every day, we ask the questions
that you'd ask, so why not add your voice to the conversation in the comments section?
Don't forget to subscribe. We are GB News, Britain's news channel.
Every night at 11 on GB News, we bring you the next day's stories the day before.
It's basically like time travel.
If it's a big story, we'll cover it, guaranteed. But we'll also have some fun along the way.
Big opinions, big laughs. Sometimes big hair.
This is
Headliners, the paper review show that won't send you to sleep like the others will.
11 p.m, 7 nights a week. Join us.
Hello there, I'm Eamon Holmes.
And I'm Isabel Webster.
And we hope you can join us for
Breakfast with Eamon
and Isabel.
You make me laugh out loud, belly laugh.
Is that important first thing in the morning?
Yeah, absolutely.
And there's me trying to be deadly serious. News is a serious business.
Yeah, I have to rein you in sometimes.
Well, it doesn't stop us laughing at it. It doesn't stop us having an opinion on what's going on.
Yeah.
And it certainly will not stop us reflecting what you think.
Weekdays from 6 to 9:30 on GB News.
I'm Dan Wootton. Join me Monday to Thursday from 9 to 11 for the feistiest and most fun news debate on TV, where free speech reigns. I'll bring you a sharp take on the day's biggest stories, bombshell newsmaker interviews, and A-list guests. And I guarantee you, no spin, no bias, no censorship, and no reason to go to bed. That's Dan Wootton tonight, Monday to Thursdays from 9 on GB News.
Welcome back. It's 1:35. You're on the money with me, Liam Halligan. Now, if you're a woman, have you had reservations about managing and investing money? Global research by the financial company BNY Mellon suggests around 28% of women feel confident. It's a low number handling and investing money. At least that was the view among 8,000 female survey respondents. Some put this aversion down to predominantly male-oriented financial service companies. But new research shows that if women invested at the same rate as men, it could result in an additional, wait for it, $3.2 trillion of capital being invested globally. It's a lot of cash. So how can we make investment more inclusive? Well, I'm joined here in the studio by Christina Church. She's Head of Responsible Strategy at BNY Mellon Investment Management. Christina, you're welcome. That's the company that's led this research. And Iona Bain is still with us. She penned the Young Money blog. She's also written a book called Own It, helping younger people to invest and take control of their financial future. Iona actually has been working with BNY Mellon on their campaign. Christina, let's come to you first. I was a bit cheeky in the headlines of the show. Women are less confident managing money, say women, official. Were you surprised by the results of this survey?
No, I wasn't surprised, but I think there were a lot of findings in the survey that were really interesting. And what we were trying to look at was not so much why women are not investing, but what can we do to change that? What are the barriers to prevent women investing? And we did find that there were 3 key barriers that were stopping women investing. There was an income barrier, there was a risk barrier, and there was a confidence or engagement barrier about understanding what investing is. And I think there's a lot more we can do because there's clearly huge sums of money sitting on the sidelines that could be investing, and it could be investing for good as well.
And of course, we've got to broaden this conversation out. The kind of women you were talking to in this instance, we cover lots of subjects here on the show, but you were talking to women who maybe do have discretionary savings that they can put to work. But there are many, many women around the country, of course, who are trying to manage household budgets. In some ways, a lot harder thing to do. Do you think that, I wouldn't say lack of confidence, but maybe that caution, that over-caution perhaps, extends up and down the income scale?
Oh, completely. And actually, of the 8,000 people we spoke to, it was across the income scale.
Very good.
We spoke to asset managers as well. We spoke to men too. We were trying to understand exactly what it is. And I think what really stood out for me in the report was the amount of money people felt they needed as disposable income to invest. It was, for the UK alone, it was £40,000 per year of disposable income. And that's a huge number.
Well above the average wage. The average wage is what, 28 grand, 30 grand, something like that. So what you're saying is, even if it's small amounts of money, even if it's just a few quid a week, invest, take advantage of compound interest, though interest rates are pretty low. You have to speculate, if you like, a little bit to accumulate, particularly in a time of high inflation.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think also just trying to get rid of that word speculate or risk and trying to understand that investment can have positive impacts. It can really drive financial independence for people. And that, to me, can just drive so much change if we can get people to understand just the smallest amount of money. People have got to be willing and able to have that money to invest, and there clearly is, we need to understand people's incomes to do that, but we don't need these large numbers that people, well, women in particular, seem to think they need to start investing.
Iona, this is central to your work over quite a few years.
Yeah.
You've not only been encouraging young women to take control of their financial destiny and use their money, big or small, to personal advantage, but young men too, young people across the board.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that whenever you have this discussion, you always run the risk of stereotyping or making generalisations, which is not what we want to do here. But I do think that you can observe differences between how men and women think about money. And I do think that when blokes kind of decide, actually, here's an opportunity. I don't know absolutely everything right now, but I'm going to go for it, bite on the bullet, and figure things out as I go along. There's a lot to be said for that attitude. And I think women...
Backing yourself.
Backing yourself, yeah, absolutely. And I think women quite rightly do have a bit more of a cautious attitude when it comes to lots of things in life, and they may apply that to their finances too. But I think you can be overcautious. There is such a thing as reckless conservatism. So we know if you keep all your money in cash over the long term, you are going to suffer the Pac-Man of your finances, i.e. inflation. It's going to keep eating away at your money over the long term. And the only chance you have of outpacing inflation is if you invest it. And Christina's absolutely right. You really don't need that much each month or each week in order to just get started. Little and often. Way easier.
Christina, we used to be a nation of savers, didn't we? But we're not anymore. Of course, we have a huge financial services industry, not just in London, of course. There's huge investment industry in Leeds, in Edinburgh, in Bournemouth, down on the south coast, in Cardiff as well, and indeed in Belfast. What can we do to encourage people to save more, to invest more, to put money aside at a time when the cost of living crisis is biting and inflation is really high?
Yeah, I think actually there is a lot we can do, because what we found in the report was it's not so much that women don't want to invest. It's there's a confidence hurdle and there's an income hurdle. So what we can do is engage better with women and with all people out there who want to invest. We can make investment more inclusive. We can use language that's much more accessible, get rid of jargon. Let's really appeal to what does appeal to women, what appeals to them, we've found in the report, was investing for good, investing for the environment, for society. Let's use language that resonates. And if we can do that, and also if we can inspire more women into careers in investment, we did find also in the report that if there are more role models talking to women as they're talking about their finances, they might be more willing to invest. And I think that's a really important point.
Well, we've got 2 role models here.
Woohoo!
Whoa! On the money, helping to create your role model status. Your final word, Iona, 2 young people who are trying to make ends meet about how they manage their money.
I completely understand it's really tough right now for young people, and if you feel like you just don't have that spare cash to invest right now, it's much more important that you have a safety net of savings, build that up first. But if you're thinking about investing, you know, you can do your research. Investing has never been more accessible or egalitarian.
Stick some money in an ISA if you got it, and then you don't get taxed on your savings, right?
That's a very, very basic.
And every year you get an allowance.
Absolutely, absolutely. Or a lifetime ISA if you're saving for your first home, because you're getting up to £1,000 free from the government every year towards your first home. It's a no-brainer.
Iona Bain, writer of the Young Money blog, and Christina Church of BNY Mellon. Thank you so much both for coming into the On the Money studio. No stereotypes here.
No.
Now, UK trade with the EU has been knocked by Brexit, with businesses facing higher costs, more paperwork and border delays. That's according to the Cross-Party Public Accounts Committee of MPs. The committee suggests in a new report out today that, quote, the only detectable impact of Brexit has so far been to increase the burdens on business, with small businesses being hit the hardest. Well, we're joined by our North West of England reporter, Bradley Harris. He's at the design element Flowers, a company which relies heavily on imported goods, of course. Brad, good to see you on the show as ever. So how much impact has Brexit had on the firm where you are?
Yeah, thanks, Liam. Always good to be on the show. It's interesting, isn't it, this impact that we're seeing on UK and EU trade, increased costs, more paperwork and delays. Let's bring it down to a local level, though. I've come to Salford to design Element Flowers, and I'm joined by Anthony Williams. Anthony, this is a real big deal for you, isn't it? Because increased costs, delays at the border, bringing goods in. This business relies heavily on flowers all over the world. This bouquet, actually, of flowers has come from everywhere across the globe.
Yeah, it's a mix of varieties, a mix of productions. So they've come from, literally, as you said, all over the world to get here.
So what's the impact on you and your business then?
The initial Brexit thing was with all the new paperwork. So most of the wholesalers stuck about a 10% surcharge on, which they needed to do. You know, and you can't absorb all of that, so you've got to pass something on. But then also, we started with Brexit and then COVID hit. So the growers, the production people, they hadn't got the staff to actually cut or pack. And then there was less planes in the air, so the freight costs went up because they weren't just putting extra boxes on passenger planes. So everything just kept mounting and mounting and mounting. And now with fuel costs, a lot of the growers can't afford to heat. So they're doing everything on cold, which puts growing season or growing time back about 6 weeks. So again, more cost.
And that's a good point you make about the pandemic. Not just Brexit, but also the pandemic has had a burden as well. But
almost a perfect storm.
Exactly. Let's talk about this bouquet a bit more, though, because, of course, you can normally buy flowers from all over the world and get them within 24 hours. That was one of the key selling points of this business and many florists across the country. But with the implications of Brexit and the pandemic, as you say, that's not the case now, is it?
No. Obviously, it's a fresh product, so time is of the essence. And it was always we could do order online, get it the next morning, no problem whatsoever. Now we've got the slight problem that we order and it can be 24 to 36 hour delay before they start coming through to us. So you've got to really plan ahead. So those days of somebody coming in and wanting a specialist rose or a specialist colour, and you go, I'll get it for you tomorrow, no problem. It's 2 days away.
And you've got Valentine's Day, a huge day coming up on Monday, a big day for you. I'm probably too late to get my roses then.
With a fourth emergency service, florists, we will get you out of trouble no matter what.
Good to chat to you. So, Liam, there you go. Even with the delays and with Brexit and the pandemic having an impact, I could still get my roses in time for Valentine's Day.
Harris, they're in Salford at Design Element Flowers. Great to see you on the show. Now, time for my regular On the Money feature. It's Startup Britain, showcasing some of the most successful and unique startups in the UK right now, asking just how they did it. Our guest today is James Townsend. He's the founder of Mobilise, a tech startup that supports the UK's 10 million plus unpaid carers. A former teacher, James launched Mobilise in 2019. After feeling frustrated, he had to learn about caring for himself from scratch. Along with his co-founders, James has built a company providing practical advice and emotional support to those working in this tough but hugely rewarding sector. Mobilise now connects carers from across the country, working with 19 local authorities across England and Scotland. And here to tell us more, James Townsend, our latest Startup Britain. James, researching this interview, I was astonished. I mean, I like numbers, but I was astonished to learn there are upwards of 10 million carers in the UK, and numbers that have increased during the pandemic.
That's absolutely right, Liam, and we don't talk about caring enough, so we don't really recognise how much of a phenomenon this is. So we know that going into the coronavirus situation, there were a good nearly 10 million people with a caring role. And let's remember, this is not formal carers. This is not people in a uniform coming in from the agency. This is people with a family member, a friend or a neighbour who they're looking after in some way. COVID saw that go up by a good 4 million people to 13.5 million people around the country.
Wow.
And that's a huge responsibility. This is basically
one in five of our population.
It's huge.
And it's people caring for a sick child or somebody with disability, frailty, the elderly, people who can't do everything that they need to do for themselves. So unpaid people, often family members, but as you say, friends and people in the community do stuff for them day in, day out.
That's absolutely right. And the last 2 years have been a really, really challenging time if you've got that kind of role. The practical implications of just moving around and helping people have been complicated, but a lot of the elements of support that were available previously have been withdrawn or reshaped, and so people are trying to kind of figure things out for themselves. And in the new world, there's an opportunity actually to really rethink how we as a society support people with a caring role, and that's hopefully what we can contribute to.
Now, I want to come on to the business model. You know, if you don't make money, the business collapses, however well-intentioned. We'll come on to that. But just briefly, how did you get into this sector? What, in your personal experience, your background, meant that you wanted to put your obviously considerable skills and energy into this sector rather than doing something else?
Well, my family has seen a couple of examples of caring roles, and my co-founders also have experience of care, very different experiences. But one of the common themes that we had was that the frustration of figuring stuff out for yourself. Navigating the care system is a super complex thing to do anyway. But on top of that practical stuff, you've got the emotional challenges of changing relationships with people in your family. And we decided, well, hey, instead of all of us having to figure this out for ourselves, let's, if you'll excuse the pun, mobilise the knowledge.
I like the way you did that. There's the name of the company right there.
Absolutely. So let's mobilise that knowledge, wisdom and expertise that have been picked up by people who've been caring, you know, sometimes for many years. Let's pool that, share it, so that together we can care and thrive.
Now, some people say, particularly older people, oh, the internet is terrible, the kids are all in their rooms playing online games, it doesn't get people together. But what you're doing shows that the internet can get people together. Your members, they're hosting virtual cuppers, they're supporting each other. We saw a wonderful clip there from Glenn, who is a carer. He didn't think he'd be in this position. It's really hard for him to access the information and to remain motivated, isn't it?
Absolutely. But let's remember that when we think of people who might be in their 70s or 80s, actually quite a few people have found an iPad is a great way of staying in touch with grandchildren. If we design services really carefully to be accessible and intuitive, I'm sure she won't mind me saying, I always think, if my mum can figure it out, then we're doing well and it's working well, and she loves...
So it's a really easy to use platform that's intuitive. It's not big on flashy gadgets. It's just big button technology, if you like, albeit online. So how do you actually sustain the business? How does the business make money and grow?
Well, it's really important to us that what we provide is free to access for carers. So anybody across the UK can log on mobiliseonline.co.uk and you can access free content, resources, all sorts of things that will be really helpful. But we also know that local authorities have a statutory duty to support carers, to provide information and advice. And we also know that the support is most effective when we reach people early and make it super accessible. So we're working with 19, as you say, local authorities across the country, and we provide a proactive identification campaign, so we can go out on the internet and find carers, often before they identify themselves as a carer. We can spot their caring role, proactively offer that support, and then offer a bit more of an enhanced level of support for the people living in that local authority.
So broadly speaking, if I may, you get a fair amount of your income from local authorities who support you because you are helping them to fulfil their statutory role to help carers in the community. Absolutely. And are there other advertising and marketing aspects of the business on the side, which again may be helpful to the people that use it?
Well, actually, we think the most important piece, the most important source of information is from other carers across the country. But we're looking at what we can do to develop additional models, particularly for employers. So the impact of caring on people's employment can be huge, and it costs employers £6 billion a year through absence, attrition, all sorts of things. Getting an offer in nice and early to support carers who are also working can then make all the difference to their employers.
And please explain to me, what is a virtual cuppa?
Well, this started at the beginning of COVID. Suzanne, my co-founder, and I, we had a business plan for a year. We thought, right, we've got to rip that up. And we just started with what felt natural, which was to find a Zoom call with a couple of other people, find out what their challenges are, and create a supportive and safe space.
So you all make a cup of tea, get online, and have a chat?
Absolutely.
And I guess that's the important thing, because so often people in caring roles, it's stressful enough seeing a loved one, in a situation where they need care, albeit we hope that they'll be comfortable and recover. But also it's daunting physically, isn't it? Psychologically, it can be very lonely to be a carer.
Yeah, there's a really key practical implication for the kind of support we can provide, but nothing means more than being able to reach out to other people who you might never have met and identify that your challenges are you're not alone with those challenges. That emotional support of being able to engage with other people who know what it's like to talk about bodily fluids every time you sit down at the kitchen table and that kind of element. I think that's a really important element of the support that we provide. We
talk a lot, don't we, about the fiscal implications of social care and people's housing, wealth being used. It's a hugely controversial, hot-button topic of politics. But I guess in the end, a lot of it comes down to ordinary people doing things for their loved ones, their friends, neighbours and relatives voluntarily, right?
This is something I can't think of any family that will be watching that doesn't have this going on through their mind at the moment.
James Townsend of Mobilise, our latest Startup Britain guest. Great to have you in the studio.
Thanks
and
a lot,
all the very best, and stay in touch with us here on The Money.
Cheers.
James Townsend then. Now, just before we finish the show, a couple of your views on apprenticeships. John emailed gbviews@gbnews.uk to say, I'm an apprenticeship manager for a private training provider, and the feedback I get from my students is that it's a great stepping stone into the industry. That's fantastic news, John. Good luck to you and your young apprentices. James says, when students finish school, they want to enjoy independence and socialise with like-minded people. The only feasible way for most to do this is to go to university. Yep, for some, but 50%? Not so sure. Michael says, I left school with 1 GCSE and started an apprenticeship in the printing industry. I've now ended my 52-year career as divisional director of one of the largest corporations in the world. Chapeau! Keep your emails coming. Tell me what you want to be discussed here on The Money. That's all we've got time for today. Thanks for joining me. We'll be back tomorrow. We'll be discussing the crisis surrounding Derby County Football Club here on The Money, which fell into administration last year. This is GB News. I'm Liam Halligan, and that was On The Money.
Hello. Most of us will have a dry day today, but increasingly across Scotland, we're seeing showers turning more and more wintry, and we have a Met Office warning for snow in place across parts of Scotland for later today. One more mild day across the south, but here it will turn colder as this cold front moves through. It is providing quite a bit of cloud, and in places a little bit of patchy rain. But it's further north where the winds are strengthening. We've got the wintry showers coming in, snow over hills, but even down to low levels, some snow flurries possible, moving in on that fairly brisk wind. Patchy rain from that weather front across parts of southern England, South Wales, tending to ease off and push further south. The far southeast, dry and bright, but clouding over here. That's where we could see the top temperatures, 13, maybe 14 degrees. Further north, though, we've already got the colder air. So single figures, feeling colder with the wind, and increasingly we'll see those snow showers coming in across western Scotland, likely to pep up overnight. Several centimetres of snow on some of the higher routes here. Snow down to low levels for a time before low levels turning more back to rain during Thursday. But ice is an extra hazard also. Patchy rain clearing the south, still pretty mild in the south, but not as mild as recent nights. Frost likely across the north where we have clear skies. And if you get some shelter from the wind. But a blustery, showery day across Scotland to come tomorrow. Those showers still of snow over hills. And again, the likelihood for some disruption. Ice is a potential risk as well, where we've got the showers during Thursday. Mostly dry and bright further